Everybody always waves. All right. Okay, so lesson 4 is your last lesson of unit 2. So that means you have what? Unit test. Yep. Okay, unit test coming up after this lesson. It's also our halfway point for Q1, so you're an eighth of the way through the year already. Wow! Yay! Silent claps. So just to get you excited about Q2 coming up, I was just going to show you 2 little pieces from your cold case murder that you're going to be so amazing. It's a she. She's dead. That's why it's a cold case. Homicide. She's so anyway, I'm working on getting everything printed out. I have a tiny bit more to print and a little bit more online to do. This is really interactive, and it's going to be both like physical items like these, and then online. We got to do web forms, like you got to go in and apply. Like say, like you want to enter a profile for fingerprinting, or you want to enter a profile for DNA. It's gonna be an online form. You're gonna have to fill out grant applications, because getting somebody to fund some of these types of tests are expensive, and a lot of small police departments, and you're a small police department, don't have the money to just pay for it. So you got to go apply for the grants online, and then when you get approved for the grants, you get to the next phase. So it's basically it's phases, it's steps, and you have to hit benchmarks at each step to get to the next step. And each team's going to be working on their own time.
That a build here?
No.
Yeah.
It's all mock.
Oh.
Yeah.
So is our police station like in the ghetto?
I have no idea. It's a tiny little town. So let me just show you though. Like, this is a sample of some of this of what you'll be getting. So this right here is evidence, and these are your historical victim photos. So like, one important part of every case, especially homicide cases, is your victimology, right? It's learning who your victim is so that you can kind of help figure out what might have happened to them. So this is your victim. Her name's Hope.
Hello.
And Hope is dead. And you're going to help find who killed Hope. But as part of that, you also get historical photos of her throughout her life, so that you know whose life was taken, so that you know who it is you're working for. So this little tiny girl, somebody, all AI could not have done the lab without it. That's what's amazing. But this little tiny girl has a family that loved her, and she grew into a young lady, and somebody took her life. So it's going to be your job to figure out who was that. 1992.
Is her family also dead?
No.
Oh.
They're waiting for.
Are you disappointed?
They're waiting for you to solve her case.
Is a victim a real person?
Nope, it's all fictional. It's all mock. Although there are some aspects on it that are based on other cases, and there are some characters whose names are indicative of specific real people. And at the end of the case, I'll tell you who all of those are, so that you can go, oh, thought I've recognized that name, or maybe I don't know who that person is, but I want to learn more about them. The other thing I want to show you, one of the first things you're going to want to do with your crime scene is get it fingerprinted. So there are people, you're going to be getting them fingerprinted, so you can rule them out, or you can include them based on whether or not their fingerprints are at the crime scene. You're going to expect people like her family members to have their fingerprints at the crime scene, right? They will have been to her house, and you're going to expect people to have, you know, people she knows, her best friend. You're going to expect her to have fingerprints. You're gonna need to know who you're ruling out. So it's a lot of deductive reasoning. And then once it gets through that, it gets into more of the current genetic science. So it's a little of everything, which should make it fun. Yeah.
Not understanding.
Oh, woo woo. You had a question.
Who's the murderer?
I'm not telling you. You have to figure that out. The murderer has been, you know, out there since 1992, and it's your job to catch the murderer.
What's her dead?
How old was she when she died?
27, I believe. Yeah. So young. Mm-hmm.
I was next. What week are we starting?
You will start this the first day of Q2. So it's lesson 9. So yeah. And you'll have basically 4 weeks to get through it. So you'll be doing like the first phase is going to take a long time. The second phase will take a little bit. Then the middle phases will go real fast. And then one of the later phases where you're actually working your way through a family tree is going to take a long, long time. So it just depends. Uh-huh.
I sent this YouTube video to you that I think you'd really like. It's 3 different women who survived like really brutal attacks and like survived.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
really cool.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you can absolutely send it to me. I may have already seen it, but yeah, it'll be interesting. And I will say, I'll give you like, just so you have one little bit of idea of kind of where I've gone with this is a lot of the characters in there are named after either famous scientists, famous investigators, people who host true crime shows, podcasts, things of that sort. People that are involved in advocacy, and then victims. And in this case, I did name the, this one was personal to me, but I named the medical examiner, the person who performs an autopsy. I know there are 3 women in my life that have been murdered, and I named her after the 3 of them. So she's named for Michelle DeWitt Poor, Anne Elizabeth Harper, and Whitney Butler Dunlap. So the medical examiner's name is Michelle Harper Whitney. So she's named for 3 real life people that I know. So, and of those 3, one of them is still unsolved to this day. And I think we lost Michelle in 1991, maybe somewhere around there. 1990, 89, somewhere in there. I was small. Fun.
Would it be in internet sleuths?
Oh yeah. I've looked there. I'm waiting for them to take her case and do kind of what you're going to do with this case, but they're able to solve it. I'm sure if they want to do it. Yeah. Apparently there was a blood drop on a shoe at the scene that did not match her. So there is some evidence they could use. So I'm waiting for that. And and I will tell you this, if you like that kind of thing, I would keep my eyes on the news. I am predicting, I'm making a prediction. Here it is. You ready? I'm making a prediction. Do you know who John Benet Ramsey is? Does anybody know who John Benet Ramsey is? Some of you know. Okay, so there's a 6-year-old girl who was murdered in her home. The whole situation was weird. And this was in the mid-90s, I believe. And they have DNA. So it's a matter of time before they do what you're going to do with the DNA in this crime scene and find out who killed her. And I predict within the next 2 years. And they've ruled out her family, despite the fact that people blamed them for years. They have ruled them out. Yeah. So anyway, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. I'm very excited about it. I hope it isn't a giant failure because it's taken me 1.5 years to put together. Many, many hours. many hours. It's very complicated.
I don't be too taxi with that quarter then.
Well, it's complicated because it's like, I know the whole story, but I can't tell you the whole story. But I have to give you clues, you know. I could, but I'm not gonna. That ruins it. All right, so we're going to talk now about humans in our biosphere. So our changing landscape. So we use resources for food and housing, and we also produce waste when we use resources. Somebody have a look here at this cute little church. How adorable. What's a resource that was used to construct the church? What you got for me over there? Wood. Okay, we've got wood. Thank you. Where is your name? I can't find anybody yet. It gets to be muscle memory when I put things in and then it isn't. All right, Kenna, how about you? Stone and brick were used. Okay, what else there, Lucas?
Glass,
Glass. Where'd the glass come from?
sand,
Sand. All right, what you got? Mortar. Okay, that's a good one. And one more. Paint. Yeah, where's the paint come from? Yeah, what else is in it? What do you think?
Oil.
Some ink does. Yeah, oil. Yeah,
Sands.
yeah, latex, petroleum, things of that sort. Did you have something else, Isabella, to add? No, the paint. Okay. Yeah. So also think about, inside that building, there's probably electrical wires. So you've got copper, you got more petroleum and the insulation for the wires. These are all things that we've had to take from nature and put to use. And in the process, we produce waste, right? We produce waste as we use things. We produce waste when we throw them away. We produce waste as part of the manufacturing. So that's just part of living, right? So we have agriculture versus monoculture. Can somebody explain agriculture and monoculture? What have you got, Lucas?
agriculture is farming like different crops, monoculture is one crop.
Anybody have anything to add? Mm-hmm. Pretty much it. Yep. So agriculture can negatively impact the environment through soil degradation, water pollution, biodiversity loss, and increased greenhouse gas emissions. Monoculture, the practice of growing a single crop species over a large area, exacerbates these issues. This is why we have crop rotation, right? Because those pumpkins are going to draw specific nutrients from the soil, maybe more than spinach would. Spinach would draw other specific nutrients from the soil. And if all you ever grow on that soil is pumpkins, you're going to sooner or later deplete the soil of the minerals and the nutrients that the pumpkins need. And now you've got a problem. So it won't grow pumpkins anymore. So that's part of the reason that agriculture and crop rotation can be more effective than monoculture at growing things. But also with monoculture, it exacerbates the issues of biodiversity loss. So when you grow your little pumpkin patch, you kick out all of the animals that were living there, right? And the plants that were living there before. So yeah. All right. And then we have development. So this is our building and construction. This is what we're always up to around here, especially. So development, including economic and urban growth, can significantly impact the environment. Impacts can range from habitat loss and pollution to climate change and resource depletion. So yeah, the more you develop, the more your resources are going to, the more gravel you need to make roads, the less rock you're going to have left over because you've already put it into a road, right? So you can deplete your resources. And then obviously when you go building stuff like this, it affects habitats. There are things you can do to mitigate it, which we'll talk about. Industry. All right. So with industries impact the environment through various forms of pollution, resource depletion, and habitat destruction. Impacts can lead to climate change, biodiversity loss, negative health effects on humans and ecosystems. So we need industry to survive and thrive as a population, but there are costs and benefits of every type of factory that's built, every industry that comes into a particular area, right? It's like we get excited because they're building a new factory. All right, the new factory is going to provide jobs for 2,000 people. That's awesome. Now it's 2,000 people who can put food on the table, but the factory may have some ecological impact, sorry. So you have to weigh all of these different things. So sustainable development is where a lot of people have put focus. So this provides for human needs while preserving the ecosystems that provide renewable resources. So one thing they're careful about is like where you build. There are restrictions if you're building too close to water. There are usually variances around creeks, rivers, lakes where you can't build right up to the edge. You have to give a certain amount of space. Wetlands in particular are highly protected because they're very biodiverse and they're an important part of the ecosystem in general. But we try to keep all new developments really have a much higher focus on sustainability than in the past because it's like we started our industrial revolution, we're building constantly, we're making cities, and we're learning that has a negative impact not just on the environment but eventually on us, which is how we figured it out. Oh boy, we're not doing so well, maybe we should reconsider how we do it. So we try to be sustainable when we develop. So somebody define what's a natural resource. Caitlin.
And source found in nature.
That's resources found in nature used by people. So anything in the environment that's used by people. If you're wearing cotton right now, which nearly everybody in this room has something on that's made of cotton, I'm sure that comes from nature, right? And we've not only taken cotton from nature, but we've developed cotton plants. We've done selective breeding till we got cotton plants to exactly how we want them to be. So they grow the most amount of cotton and they're the most resistant to pests and whatever. So all of these things are all part of how we take natural resources and use them. So natural resources come in two forms: renewable, non-renewable. So the renewable ones are the ones that are either in steady supply or can be quickly replaced. So it says biomass. So this is stuff like trees. Now you think about trees, and if you cut all the trees down in your lifetime, you're not going to see that forest restored to how it looked before. But in the span of Earth and how things grow and change, that's still renewable because it might take 50 years, 60 years for that forest to look like it looked before they mowed it over. But it is still going to get replaced faster than the non-renewable things.
Basically, just describe the plot of the Lorax.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, pretty much. So trees and biomass are considered renewable, even though that individual tree is now gone and gone forever because you've chopped it down and killed it. The forest can be renewed in a reasonable amount of time, right? And then you also have things like solar, wind, water, wave, and geothermal. And those are all sources of energy that are considered renewable. Yes. Yeah, we're doing renewable right now. So yeah, so like geothermal, they use the heat from the earth. That you can use that, can take the heat energy, convert heat energy into electrical energy. It's always, here's your law of conservation of energy, right? It's never created or destroyed, it only changes form. So you can change the turbines in the Buford Dam. When you run the water from the lake and pour it down into the river that spins the turbines, it converts that kinetic energy of the water moving into electrical energy. Solar energy is converted into electrical energy. Wave energy can be converted into electrical energy. So, and wind, obviously, we've all seen windmills. They're becoming more and more popular, especially for farmers and things like that have this big piece of land. They can still grow their crops and they can bring in extra income with with the windmills. Now, for stuff like oil, coal, and natural gas, they take a long time to develop, right? They take millions of years to produce oil, natural gas, and coal. And when it's gone, it's gone. Nuclear is non-renewable, but the difference is that it takes a tiny bit of material to produce a vast amount of energy with nuclear. Whereas with the others, it takes a fair amount of material to produce the energy we use. Does anybody know what our main source of power is right here? Do you remember, Jordan?
Fossil fuels?
It's not fossil fuels here, but that's one of the more popular ones. Do you know, Drew?
Hydroelectric dam.
Hydroelectric dam coming from Buford Dam. Yeah, Lake Lanier. So our Buford Dam, we have hydroelectric here. That's our source. So that's considered a cleaner source, and it's definitely renewable as long as that lake doesn't have a major drought. Now, when we did have the drought, they slowed the dam releases down to an absolute bare minimum because the lake was very low. And we'll talk about how that affected things downstream, but they had to open it a certain amount of times because it is the power source. So they couldn't just say, we're not opening it anymore. So they just had to be very judicious about how they open the dam. So population, this is fascinating to me. So this is a 2023 graphic that is making a prediction to the year 2100. So we're right here, right? That's 2000, that's 2050. We're smack in the middle in 2025. And it starts in 1800. So if you look, you can see that populations in general are vastly on the rise, but this one also breaks it down by region. So what region between 2000 and 2050 is seeing the most rapid growth? Asia, yeah. Primarily, which two countries do we know?
India and China.
India and China, yeah. Huge rapid growth in Asia, India and China in particular. And then you see Africa is having a pretty good increase in population too. So there are different reasons why human population is increasing in these areas. And some of it has to do with development. Like in Africa, some of it's becoming less and less agrarian and more urban. and that is allowing for human population to increase because they have better access to things that they didn't have in the past. That's part of it. And it's just becoming a more industrialized country, so its population is growing. So, and if you look at this graph, so this is from the year 2000, I believe, and it goes to the year 2000, but it starts 10,000 BC. So this is showing you 300 years of population growth. This is showing you 12,000 years of human population growth. It's kind of fascinating. At the year 10,000, there were 4 million people. By the year 0, so 10,000 years later, there were 190 million people. But just 2,000 years after that, 7.7 billion. So this is a stat to blow your mind. In 1804, the Earth's population hit 1 billion. 1804, which is how many years ago? 220-ish, 23-ish. Yeah, 220-ish, 21-ish. Yeah, 221 years ago. It took us from the dawn of time until 200-ish years ago to hit 1 billion. And in 200 years, we went from 1 billion to 7.7 billion. And now we're more than that because we're getting close to 8 billion, I think.
That's part of exponential.
It is exponential growth. Yes. So what happened? What happened here? Why suddenly the growth? What happened?
Kind of industrial revolution or similar.
That's a big part of it. Yeah, Drew.
Medicine, communication.
Yeah, modern medicine, communication, things like that.
But yeah, like you said, modern medicine, but like
Mhm.
vaccines and stuff, because like 200 years ago, like it was very, very rare to have a child like survive.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And the weapons eliminating those natural predators.
Weapons, natural predators, all sorts of things, all of these things. But like all of that, our modern medicine and our understanding of germ theory, all of that didn't happen till like right there, like right here, just in front of that 2000. So you can see the difference that was made by those changes in how we behave and in how we interact with the environment and in how we interact with each other. So huge growth in the last 200 years, exponential growth in human population. Some people worry, oh no, are we going to overpopulate? We are not at our carrying capacity for humans. Do not worry about that. You ever fly over the country and look down? We got lots of space, We're good. Yes, we use it for agriculture, but we're good.
We got Mars too.
Yeah, we got Mars too. Did you hear that news this week on that? Okay, so Mr. Musk, the Rocket Man, has just love him or hate him, has now committed to building. Jason just told me this last night. He saw it on his phone and was like, "Oh wow!" He is now committed to building the world's largest facility, because he wants to turn out, I think it was 1,000 starships a year, because he wants to populate Mars, and the only way to do it is to keep launching. So we'll see how that goes.
Can you go there for?
Yeah, can he go? Yeah, send him. I don't know. It's interesting. He probably would.
This too much.
Knowing him, he'd be like, why not? Let's go. Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm sure that could, I'm sure he can do that. He keeps that up the way he's going. Yeah. All right, so what are 3 human activities that have transformed the biosphere? Kenna? Yeah, agriculture, development, and industrial growth. What is monoculture, Claire?
Just with one single organism.
Agriculture with one single organism. There you go. And you clear a large area generally too, which is rough on the area. Okay, what are 3 resources used in agriculture, Eunice? Water, soil, fossil fuels. Why are we using fossil fuels in agriculture? Barrett? Oh no? Change your mind? Eunice?
I think it's to help for urban growth.
Yeah, but for agriculture in particular, what's the fossil fuels for, Asher? There you go. Tractors. Whoops, sorry. Things of that sort tend to run on gas. How does urban and suburban development affect the environment and habitats? Caitlin.
It destroys the habitats for natural organisms.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the waste you need to have waste disposal, and that can affect the water, air, and soil, and then it divides or destroys or fragments habitats. Okay, what source provides the most energy for industrial production? Lucas.
Fossil fuels.
Fuels. Yep. So gasoline, coal burning, petroleum, all of that. We use that all the time. We have more and more electrical vehicles these days for sure, but you still don't see them in construction development nearly as much, right? As you see them as passenger vehicles or delivery vehicles or whatever. All right, so let's look at consequences of some human activities. Agriculture, I need a positive and a negative consequence. Kenna, why don't you give me both, a positive and a negative for agriculture? Mm-hmm. There you go. Very good. So it is efficient. It produces high yield production. You're going to find more blackberries on a blackberry farm than you're going to find on the side of the road, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Efficient. I've seen a lot on the side of the road. Yep. But then we have consumption of fossil fuels and fertile soil and the pollution of air and water. As we learned with our algae lab, if you get runoff from fertilizer into ponds and lakes and streams, it can cause algae blooms. That's a whole different issue, right? Okay, how about development? A positive and negative consequence of development. Barrett?
It increases living space for people.
Okay.
It creates jobs.
Okay.
It produces harmful waste to the environment.
Okay, yeah. So yeah. Facilities for homes and businesses are built, and pollution from waste production, and then we got to burn fossil fuels to build them. And how about industrial growth? Asher?
Habitats relations, however, it also provides production for materials and jobs.
There you go. So conveniences and luxuries of modern life and jobs and all of that. But there are wastes, burning fossil fuels, pollution of air, water, soil, destruction of habitat to put the factory in place. So we got a Venn diagram, and it shows renewable resources and non-renewable resources. And in the middle, it says that all these resources are raw materials for building, manufacturing, fuels, and food. But renewable versus non-renewable? Kenneth? Yep. And the non-renewable?
Resources processes that cannot be replenished.
Yes. Yeah. So your renewables can be easily replaced or are kind of in constant supply, like solar, wave, that type of thing. But your non-renewables get easily used up. Those are your fossil fuels, your minerals. If you've used all the coal in your area, you've used all the coal in your area. You're not going to be around for the millions and millions of years it's going to take to get more coal, right? All right. So how do we use our resources wisely then? If we have to use them, we should be wise about how we do it. So soil is a renewable resource that must be managed properly. So how do we manage the soil? Soil erosion. How do we manage erosion? What are some things we do? Barrett?
Plant more trees to help the roots keep together.
Plant more trees. You ever notice in construction zones along the edge of construction zones, you'll see what are called silt fences. It's that kind of black or orange fabric that they stretch between little stakes. That's to keep the soil runoff to a minimum. And then also you've probably noticed they'll put down hay or sometimes a nylon mesh with hay, and they seed underneath of it so that grass grows. These are all ways that they are trying to manage the soil. So soil erosion is the process where topsoil, which is the most fertile layer, is removed by natural forces like water, wind, ice, and gravity, or by human activities such as agriculture and construction. And agriculture and construction can change the course of the natural flow of water. So then you can get erosion in places where it didn't exist before. Okay, so what's desertification? It's a fun word. Lucas?
If the soil erodes so much that it gets so dry and desolate that nothing can grow there.
Yes. So this is a process where your fertile soil land becomes increasingly arid arid, it should, oh, it is, it's just cut off. Arid and unproductive, and due to human activities and climate change, it's a form of land degradation, particularly in drier areas. And it leads to a persistent loss of ecosystem services. So whatever the ecosystem is doing and however it's serving you, you're going to lose it if your soil looks like that. This isn't good. You don't want your soil to look like that. And then lastly, deforestation. All right, Eunice. Yeah, so this is when they come in. So soil deforestation refers to the process where the forest is cleared, and the resulting soil is left vulnerable to erosion and degradation. This happens when the trees and their root systems, which normally hold the soil in place and protect it from wind, rain, are removed. So then you have problems with the soil being degraded because you've taken the trees out. So how do we manage our freshwater resources? They are very limited and some cannot be replaced. What types of water resources, freshwater resources, can't be replaced? What do you think? Anybody? Yeah? Icebergs, that's true. So a lot of those are salt. Yeah, there's a lot of salt, some of those. So, glaciers, yeah, we do have some glaciers, yeah, that are hard to replace.
Ice caps.
Yeah, and also you've got things like underground aquifers that can dry out. They absolutely can. And then you've got ponds. This is crazy. I don't know how many of you have lived in this area for a while, but on Old Atlanta Road, not the part that's out front of my neighborhood, but where it turns at Sharon, and it was like a little farm road. Now they've got a bunch of neighborhoods off of it that are brand new and they're building even more. But there's a little house there that had a pond in its backyard. The pond was about as big as this whole living space. It was a nice sized little pond. And I thought it was so cute. They had their own pond. And then when we had the 100-year drought, where Lake Lanier had issues and everything had issues, I watched the pond get lower and lower until one day the pond was gone. It was just gone. It was just like this muddy area, and then grass came in. It has never come back. They lost their pond permanently. A whole pond gone. So that it's so weird to me that it was there and I watched it disappear and it's gone. So we have to be careful about our freshwater resources because most of the earth is saltwater. And there's only one country that I'm aware of that has been very successful at using salt water as their primary drinking source through desalinization plant. Does anybody know what country does that very well? Do you know? Israel. Israel has very successfully created desalinization plant, and most of their drinking water is coming from the ocean. But it's an expensive process and it works for them because they're a fairly small country. It would not work for us. We're too big, but they've made it work. And it's pretty darn cool, actually. All right, so freshwater, we have problems with pollution. And this is freshwater pollution occurs when harmful substances contaminate inland water sources such as rivers, lakes, streams, and groundwater. These substances can include chemical pollutants, biological pollutants, solid waste, heavy metals, and thermal pollution. Okay, you want to know something fascinating? What's the main river that runs through London? Anybody know? Anybody? Do you know?
I was gonna ask that. Is that Roswell Mill?
It looks like it, but I don't think it is, but it looks like the Roswell Mill. Does anybody know the river that runs through London? Do you know?
Is it Hudson?
No, it's New York. Do you know?
Is it the Rhine?
No, do you? The Thames. Okay. Fascinating. Do you know what they're finding in the water and in the organisms in the Thames right now that they've never found before?
Plastics.
Well, plastics, yeah, but this is fairly new. This is
Microplastics.
in the last probably 15, 20 years. They're finding antidepressants. Because I'm serious, not because people are taking their, their SSRIs or Prozac and tossing it into the water. They're not taking their Celexa and throwing it in the river. What's happening is urine from people that take those antidepressants, which is now they're the most commonly prescribed medications, are antidepressants or psych meds in general, are the most commonly prescribed medications. So the psych meds come out in the urine, and now the psych meds are in the Thames. They were never there before. They were never there before because they didn't exist and people weren't taking them at the volume. So it's kind of fascinating. So that is a pollutant that probably nobody even thought about, right? Like you go produce, You develop these medications, they
Depressants.
improve people's quality of life. They're lifesavers for many people. They're good medications for many, many people.
Tasty.
You probably never sit in your pharmaceutical lab and think, man, I'm gonna get the fish undepressed. Because that's what you are, it's essentially gonna do that. Yes.
I remember when we went to London, like we looked at the river and we're like, that is not a river because it was just so dirty.
It's
like,
dirty.
It was like a really dark brown.
Well, and the thing about the Thames is you know, obviously London is an old city. So something that I really want to do one day, have you ever heard of mudlarking? So mudlarking is when you walk along the banks and you look in the mud and you find artifacts. And there are, if you want to look at it, there's some people Instagram channels that do mudlarking and it's fascinating. They'll be like, oh, it's a clay pipe from the 1700s. Oh, it's a Coca-Cola cap. You know, it's like everything. Uh-huh. Hang on, Asher was talking. What now? Yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of, yeah, London's crazy. So pollution is not always just your cans, your trash, and your factory chemicals. It can be your antidepressants too, which is kind of fascinating to me. So then we have biological magnification. Okay, this is why, for example, anybody know how big a tuna is? You probably see it in a can, but how big is a tuna? They're big. Okay. So they eat smaller fish, right? And then those fish eat smaller fish. So if you have a little fish and it's swimming in the water and it gets a little, oh, let's say mercury, which is toxic, it absorbs a little mercury because it's eating little things, eating little plankton, or it's eating grass and whatever, algae, whatever, it's eating stuff, and it absorbs a little mercury. So let's say its mercury level is 1. Well, the bigger fish has to eat 2 of the smaller fish to survive. So now his mercury level is 2. And the bigger fish has to eat 6 of those. So now his, now he's 12. So by the time you get to the tuna, who's a big fish, he's eaten all the little fish, and it's called biological magnification. So it's the idea that concentration of substances increases in the tissues of organisms as you move up the food chain. So the higher level predators accumulate greater and more dangerous amounts of toxins than organisms lower on the food chain. And then lastly, we have watersheds. So I don't know why these signs exist, but if you haven't noticed them before, you're going to notice them now because I'm telling you. But there are signs that we pay for with our tax dollars on the side of the road that'll say like Etowah River Watershed. And I don't know why I need to know that when I'm driving. It's fascinating that, they're telling me, but I'm not sure why they put that on the road. I really don't know.
Why not?
I mean,
Go for a swim.
those signs cost like $500 a piece or more, and they're just popping them up all down the road. And it's like, well, that's cool. I guess I'm in the Etowah River watershed. Is that supposed to change something? Like, I don't know. But your watershed is basically your drainage basin or your catchment or your area of land where all the surface water, everything like rain and snow melt, is going to drain into a common body of water like a river, lake, or ocean. So the Etowah River watershed is where everything is pouring into the Etowah River. Like right here, we're in the Chattahoochee watershed. Anything that leaves my house is making its way downhill to the Chattahoochee, right? So essentially, it's the land area that funnels precipitation and other surface runoff towards a specific outlet. Which, I mean, it's important to know if you're building in the Etowah River watershed that you're in it, but I still don't know why they put signs on the road. It's just like, I don't know. It's bizarre. So atmospheric resources, pollution reduces air quality. All right, so I talked about this with the juniors, and Evan has actually visited China. Anybody else ever been to China besides you? Okay. So we went 11 years ago. We landed in Beijing. Do you remember landing? So as we were coming in, you're in the air and it's like, oh, it's blue skies and clouds, right? And we were approaching Beijing, and as we were coming in, suddenly outside the windows went from blue skies and clouds to yellow. Yellow, like yellow air, yellow, smoky smog. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the air is yellow. Now, our friend had warned us, and that we were going to visit. She had mailed us masks, okay? Because she's like, you're going to want them before you leave the airport. So I'm just mailing them to you now. You might want them before the plane lands. And I'm like, what is she talking about? Well, you could taste the air when you were inside the plane. It tasted like sucking on keys or metal. It was this metallic taste in your mouth. Just from breathing in and it's coming through the filters into the plane, you could still taste it. So the wild thing was we had a tour guide with us, who took us to the Great Wall and back. She was awesome, but she said, it's really a shame you couldn't have come here 2 weeks ago because we had the G8 summit and it was different. So the G8 summit, you get all these leaders from all these countries and they get together and they have a big old meeting and they talk stuff. Because the G8 summit was in Beijing, the Chinese government required all factories to cease production for 2 weeks prior to the G8. She said everybody was outside. Everybody was outside, no masks, everybody's playing and frolicking, woo! Because it was the nicest weather and air they'd had in years. And then as soon as the world leaders left, boom, factories back on, instantly back on. Smog in the air. I mean, it was unbelievable. You couldn't walk around the city without a mask. You couldn't. You couldn't breathe. It was gross. So yes, pollution reduces air quality. And it's not that we don't have industry over there and they have all the industry. They don't have the same standards for their industry as we do. When you put standards and restrictions on industries to reduce pollution, it tends to reduce their efficiency as well. They can't do as much work or as fast, or it costs more. We take those hits because we're trying to make a more sustainable production and keep our environment cleaner. They don't follow those rules. So because of that, they produce more. That's also why things cost less when they come from there, right?
Children.
Yeah.
That too. But they don't have to follow the same rules and it gets yellow air. So
Oh,
you have smog. Yep, that is minor compared to Beijing. I can actually see the buildings. You could not see them in Beijing. That's smog. So smog is a type of air pollution that appears hazy, visible mixture of smoke and fog, or a photochemical haze. So it has to do with the light energy impacting the chemicals, which causes changes to them. It's formed when pollutants, particularly from vehicle emissions and industrial sources, react with sunlight or other atmospheric conditions. You get smog. All right, then you get acid rain. This is what you were testing in your lab. So acid rain or acid deposition is a broad term that includes any form of precipitation with acidic components, such as sulfuric or nitric acid, that fall to the ground from the atmosphere in wet or dry forms. Now, rain is generally slightly acidic, as we said in lab, because there's carbon dioxide in the air, and as the rain falls through the air, some carbonic acid is created, and you get a little bit of a slightly lower pH, slightly lower than neutral for rain, but not at the level that you get with acid rain. Rain that falls through this city is going to be acid rain. And it can damage plants like this. It can also dissolve limestone, things like that, right? It can cause damage to structures, buildings, all sorts of things. And then we can have our greenhouse effect, which is a natural part of the way Earth functions. We have a greenhouse effect built into our planet. Without it, we would die, okay? Because we need that nice layer in our atmosphere to keep the warmth on our planet so it doesn't just, it would be too cold otherwise and we would not do well, or it would be too hot when you're too close to the sun. So acid rain or acid, ooh, does that say the same thing? It sure does. Well, how did I do that? Anyway, your greenhouse effect is basically when you have certain gases in the air and certain atmospheric conditions that are going to keep your warmth. Now, if you have too many of those acids, you may keep too much warmth, which is the problem that you hear people talk about when they talk about greenhouse effect, greenhouse gases, climate change, that sort of thing. So what's topsoil? Jordan.
it's the best part of the most nutrient part of the.
Yes, it's the very top layer and it's the most nutrient rich layer. Why are you not? I'm clicking you. There you go. And how does it form? Where's the topsoil come from? Oh, Lucas.
Like plants decompose and they leave the nutrients in the soil.
Yes, so it comes from long-term interaction of the soil and the plants that grow in it and all of the decomposition of plants and animals and everything else that's living there. And what's soil erosion? All right, Barrett.
Like when areas of soil like break apart and like
Mhm.
and like tear up the ground and stuff, or like when it's not hold together anymore, it causes landslides.
Yeah, it's when it's moved, when soil is moved by wind or water or some other force from one area to another. Yep. Okay, how does plowing land increase the rate of soil erosion? Ridley?
Well,
Yeah, it loosens up the soil, it removes the roots of plants that were holding it in place, and it makes it easier for it to wash away. Anybody ever dug up for a new garden in your yard and then you get a big rainstorm and you see it all washed and it's moved away. Okay, what happens to farmland during desertification? Eunice.
Turning into desert, due to, farming too.
Yeah, so a combination of farming, sometimes overgrazing from animals, drought, climate change can turn farmland into a desert, basically. Are mature forests a renewable resource? What do you think? Kenna, what do you think?
No, because it takes so long to grow back.
Okay. You disagree
Yes.
with your sister? Okay. What do you say?
Say yes, because well, it will take a while. It will grow back.
Okay. So it's saying mature forest is not a renewable resource. It depends on how you're going to say this. Technically, all biomass technically is a renewable resource, but we try not to destroy old growth mature forests because they do take a very long time to get back to where they were, hundreds of years sometimes. So this is kind of one of those arguable ones, I think. All right, then what happens to the soil when rainforest is cut down? Oh, yes, Yusuf.
Those feet were once holding the soil.
Yeah, and it's also going to lose the organic matter that is making up that soil because there's nothing there to live and die anymore. And then it just becomes it's a wasteland, basically. It's of no use. So example, okay, so this is a graphic organizer. Oh, these are so fun. Sustainable soil use. So examples, root stems, crop rotation, contour plowing, terracing, tree farms, selective harvesting, mature trees. These are the types of things you might have had in yours. Something like that. So you can leave roots and stems. You can rotate your crops. You can use contour plowing and terracing. You can plant tree farms and you can selectively harvest mature trees. We do selective cutting in our forest every couple of years. We take out the little scrubby trees and leave only the hardwoods and the flowering native trees. So yeah, there are ways to go about it. So biodiversity. So it's a variety of life in the world or within a particular ecosystem, and it's very valuable. We need all the diversity of living things. So ecosystem diversity, and you probably noticed this last week when you did lab. So ecosystem diversity refers to the variety of different ecosystems within a specific geographic, it should say, area. It encompasses the different habitats, communities, and interactions between living, biotic, and abiotic factors. So there was probably a big difference between, like, Colin's team was over here on the grass, right? And then who was out under the trees over here? Okay, y'all. So what kind of bugs did your team see, Colin? Do you know? Butterflies. I think you guys saw ants. Were there ants?
Ants.
And gnats, right? Okay, but there were no trees or anything. So you probably didn't see any spiders to build webs there unless they have a little ground time. Did y'all see spiders? Yes. And what other kind of bugs did you see?
And a lot of
A lot of ants. Okay. Did you see any like roly-polies or beetles or anything of that kind? Something like that? Yep. Okay. So yeah. So there's lots of diversity just even on my piece of property. All right. And then we have species diversity. So this is what we were just talking about, the different types of species in an area. The different species found in a specific area or ecosystem encompassing the number of species and how evenly their populations are distributed. Maybe you have like a ton of snails, but very few ants. That makes up part of your diversity as opposed to equal numbers. So you can include numbers as well as types. And then lastly, we have genetic diversity. Okay, those are all the same species of snail. They're all the same species of snail. Yeah, they are really cool, right? I don't know. I don't remember. They're really pretty. They're really pretty. So if you look around this room, we don't have any sets of identical twins in here. So we are all genetically diverse, but we're the same species, right? Some of us have blue eyes, some of us have brown eyes, some of us are blonde, some of us have black hair. We have a lot of genetic diversity within our species. We'll talk about this a lot this year, but what is the advantage to being genetically diverse within a species?
Like different and so
Mhm.
and the incest.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yep. Isabel? Stronger genetics. Mm-hmm.
If a species has like all the same DNA, then it's probably more likely to die off.
That's it right there. So the reason that sexual reproduction has an advantage over asexual reproduction is that when you get genetic diversity within a species, that you get through sexual reproduction, not asexual reproduction, you get genetic diversity, which means if something happens and your environment changes, at least some of your members of your species are going to be better able to adapt than if you were all exactly the same. So if you have fuzzy wiggies and the fuzzy wiggies live along the bank and the fuzzy wiggies eat the minnows that come up near the edge of the riverbank, but some of the fuzzy wiggies also eat frogs, then one day if all the minnows disappear, at least the fuzzy wiggies that ate frogs are going to keep living, right? Whereas if they all reproduce asexually and all they ate were minnows all the time and the minnows disappear, you now lose the fuzzy wiggies too.
What?
It's made up. Yeah. So genetic diversity refers to the variation of genes within a species or population. It encompasses the differences in DNA sequences among individuals, leading to variations in traits and characteristics. So that's your advantage to sexual reproduction. Your disadvantage to sexual reproduction is you need another member of your species to do it with. And maybe there's not one around. Or maybe you move real slowly and it takes a very long time to get to your closest neighbor, and that neighbor also needs to be of the opposite sex. So if it takes you 4 months to get to your neighbor and you're a dude and your other neighbor's a dude, you're stuck. You know what I mean? Whereas if you can reproduce asexually, you just pop off a clone and you're good, right? So, yeah. What?
But the snail in the bottom corner has the exact same color palette as the sweater I own.
Oh, that's okay. Well, next time you wear that sweater, remember that little snail. So we have species loss. Species can be threatened. So this is when they're likely to become endangered in the near future. And we need to start doing things to protect that species if we don't want to lose it. Then you have endangered. And this is when you are starting to lose a significant number of that species. They're at serious risk of becoming extinct in the near future, and you really should be doing some things to try and help preserve that species. And then extinct is you don't have any more of them. What's something that's extinct that we don't have any more of? Yeah. Dodo is the, everybody always uses the dodo. I'll come back.
I got it. Dinosaur.
A random dinosaur. That works. All right. What were you going to say, Xander? Mammoths. Yeah. Okay. So these are all things we've lost, right? They no longer exist. Something happened. Either they evolved into something else or they have just become extinct entirely. Caitlin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Neanderthals. There you go. A type of hominid. Yeah. So there are some species that have gone entirely extinct within our life, with our human, recorded history, like the dodo. There's more than that too. There's that weird, yeah, there's one, but I can't remember the name of it. It was like Australia, New Zealand. It looks kind of like a dog, but it's not a dog, and it has stripes. You know what I'm talking about?
It's like a kind of tiger.
What is it? No, it's not a dingo. But they're photographs of it. Like that's how recent it was. That they're black and white, but they're photographs of it, and it's gone.
It's the Tasmanian tiger.
Yeah, that's it. Tasmanian tiger. Yeah, and it's a weird looking thing. So, but here's the thing. So we have to be careful about extinction. Now, we talked about how when the water level in the dam water level in the river got really low, they got very, very judicious about opening that dam, right? They had to open it because we needed power, but they opened it as little as they possibly could because they were losing water from the lake. Well, all the way down in Alabama at the end of the river live these little mussels, like little mollusks, little clam-like dudes, little mussels. Those little mussels were endangered and they were not getting enough water. And the people down there started yelling at the people up here. And they're like, hey, our mussels are going to die if you don't start opening the dam. And the people up here were like, well, everything's dying. Have you been here lately? Like the grass is brown, the trees are brown, the shrub. People can't nobody's got a swimming pool this summer. And they're like, what the mussels? And they're like, what humans? And so there was this whole thing that went on that whole summer. It was nuts. It was like mussels, people, you know? Yes.
This is from the last slide, but my boyfriend, who is very like hyper fixated on snails, said the snails are Cuban painted snails.
Okay. Did you send it to him? Okay. That is niche and I love it. So there you go. It's very niche and I love it. Cuban painted snails. So threats to biodiversity. Some human activities such as habitat destruction or habitat fragmentation threaten biodiversity. So this is an example of a wildlife bridge that was constructed to prevent habitat fragmentation. So if you have elk on this side and elk on that side, and you build a road down the middle, maybe the elk can no longer get together to make more elk. Now you have taken their population and you have fragmented it entirely, and you fragmented their habitat. You divided it with your highway. Well, one of the things that they've done is sometimes there are tunnels, and more often there are bridges. But they've made these bridges, and the bridge just looks like land. And the animals will run right over the highway and back. They've also done these with fish. They make fish bridges. I'm serious. It's so freaking cool. Like they have like little hoppers in them, and they hop the fish up, dump them down the other side. So the fish can make it around dams and things like that they've created that are causing problems. So if you fragment a population, there are ways to fix it.
So when I went to Canada, they have their largest water supplies from runoff from glaciers.
Mm-hmm.
And when they built the dam to create power and the water that they use for the almost entirety of Vancouver,
Mm-hmm.
they blocked a massive amount of species of fish from getting to their nesting grounds.
Yep.
So they have a massive fish hatchery that comes off the dam. I have videos of like the fish jumping up 5 feet.
Yeah, they make fish elevators.
They jump.
They make actual fish elevators and fish bridges. It's pretty darn impressive. Like, I think that's really cool. So what's poaching? It says poaching threatens biodiversity. What's poaching?
Killing or endangering animals that are protected.
Do you have another definition? Illegal hunting. So yeah, so it's basically illegal hunting. So this can mean anything from killing a species that's endangered or protected. It can also mean hunting in the wrong area where you're not allowed, at the wrong time of year, or taking like bucks when you're only supposed to take does or whatever. Okay, so here's the thing. If a hunter takes a buck, all right, he gets the prize. He gets the big rack. You know, that's what they want. They want the head mount with the big rack of antlers because that's like the prize if you're hunting for sport. But the buck might be able to produce, let's say the buck hooks up with 10 does one summer. He can make 10 to 20 babies. How many is the doe going to make? 1 to 2. So killing the buck, some people, there are certain times of year when you can hunt bucks. There are certain times of year when you're not supposed to hunt does because it's like when they're pregnant. Like you got to there's rules for all this. And that's what poaching is. Like some people will take the buck because he's the prize. And also he's not the one carrying and feeding the babies, but he's also the one that can make more babies than the doe. In general, herd animals, there are fewer males than females, right? You got a whole ton of females and very fewer males. And that's pack animals, herd animals. That primates are the same way in a lot of areas. It just kind of depends on the species and how it works. But if they travel together in groups, the does around here travel together. Sometimes I'll see 5 or 6 does of all their babies together at one time. And very rarely do I see the bucks, but when I do, they're nearly always alone. Occasionally they're with another buck, and I'm like, it's a matter of time before you fight, but have fun out there while you're wandering around. Yeah.
So last summer there was a doe that gave birth to her
Fun.
fawn.
Mm-hmm.
And she left her in our backyard
Yes.
for a couple of months because they leave them somewhere they feel safe, and we have
Yes.
wooded backyards. She left her in like this like big isolated corner,
Mhm.
much bushes.
Mhm.
She just left her there for like 5 months, and you come back like every other day with food.
Yeah, they'll leave them for 24 to 48. People panic when they see the doe. See the fawns, because the fawns will just get left and they don't see the mothers at all. The moms need to go and they're grazing animals, right? They need to go and eat enough calories to produce milk to come back to feed the fawn. So they will leave their fawns for 24, 48 hours. And people, there's always somebody in my neighborhood every summer. Oh my gosh, what am I doing with this baby? Posting pictures of the baby. Like baby will be hiding under like the guest bedroom window under the shrubs, looking up like sound, they're freaked out, but they don't move, right? They don't move until mama comes back. And some people are like, oh my gosh, call the wildlife management. Other people are like, leave the baby alone. And they will come back. It's a little scared. There are signs like, is this baby dehydrated? Is this mama never coming back? Like their ears will start to droop, and there are a couple other things you can look for and be like, okay, this is not a healthy baby. This has gone on too long. But in general, you just leave them. Okay, watch your chatter. All right, so threats to biodiversity. Hunting can be a threat. So hunting is both necessary for food in some areas, and in the past it was entirely necessary for food. But now it's also a sport. So it's a practice of pursuing, capturing, or killing wild animals for food, recreation, or trade of animal products. It's an activity with deep historical roots, evolving from a necessity for survival to a sport and even a tool for wildlife management. At my last house, we had woods like this behind it. And I had an arborist come out one day to look at a couple trees that I wanted limbed up because they were like reaching over my house and it was getting a little dicey. And he stood on my back deck and looked out and said, "You have a deer problem." And I said, "I know." And he could tell because all the underbrush was gone. The forest floor was just clean. And he's like, they've done too much construction. Same problem's happening here. When you do too much construction in an area, you've now got an area, say you have a square mile that's supposed to support, 200 deer, okay? But now you've taken that square mile and half of it is paved or has houses or buildings on it. Now you've still got 200 deer, but only food for 100 of them. That's a problem. So this guy looks at me and he's like, so I'm a bow hunter, and I work with DNR, Division of Natural Resources, so they call out my group to do selective population reduction. So this is a form of hunting that is used to actually better the lives of the population of animals that are out there. Like you think, oh my God, they're going to shoot the deer. How sad. If they don't shoot the deer, he's going to starve to death, or his buddy's going to starve to death because the area can no longer support them. It just can't. And that happens around here a lot too. Actually, I had a random teenager knock on my door like 6 months ago, and I went up there and I'm like, hey, and he was like, hey, my name's, I don't even remember what he said, Taylor. And he's like, I like to hunt. Can I hunt your woods sometime? I'm like, no, you are. Like, so strange to just knock on somebody's door and be like, can I hunt your woods sometime? But if you walk in my woods, you will find there are tree stands throughout where they don't rifle hunt because you can't shoot here. Firearms in the woods here are not legal, but you can bow hunt. So there are people who will go up the tree stands and will bow hunt in the woods down here because there are too many deer. They're starving. They really are. And that's why they're eating everything in the yard and they're just mowing everything down because they're starving. It's not good. So then pollution is obviously a threat to biodiversity. Pollution is the introduction of harmful materials. We call those pollutants, right, into the environment, negatively impact air, water, soil, land. They can be natural, like volcanic ash and gases. So volcanoes can cause pollution. Or they can be human-made, such as industrial waste, agricultural runoff. Or we keep hearing about microplastics now. That's like the big trending topic. Microplastics. What's that? You recognize it, Barrett? Do you know what that is? Isabella knows. That's kudzu. Where's kudzu from? Do you know? Asia. It's from Japan. So here's what happened. We had a World's Fair. Everybody comes and hangs out. We had a big old fair. People bring their great ideas. Like Edison brought his electricity to a World's Fair. Woo! Right? So somebody brought kudzu from Japan and said to the people in the Southeast US, this is great stuff. You can plant this beside your porch. It'll grow up. It'll cover your whole porch. You can sit on your porch in the shade. It's hot where you live. You can chill in your rocking chair with your iced sweet tea in the shade. And it makes these pretty purple flowers. It's great. You want this. So people, so they bought it and planted it. And now we have that because it has 0 natural predators here. Nothing eats it. Nothing here eats it. And if it gets into your yard or your land, you have to use strong herbicide specific to kill it, or you're stuck with it. It's just here.
Jelly.
Yes.
They're also edible.
Yeah, it's really the jelly. I've had some. It's really yummy. Yeah, it's a beautiful like purple jelly. It's delicious.
Did you get a natural predator from Japan?
Well, now you're introducing another
Yeah,
invasive
we don't need
species.
more.
Now you have another
Just
problem.
eat that.
Yeah,
What if you just
it's
eat the
like
pussy?
you know the old lady that swallowed the fly. Have you heard that story? There was an old lady who swallowed a fly. I don't know why she swallowed the fly. I guess she'll die. There was an old lady who swallowed what'd she swallow after the fly?
Those spiders eat.
Spider that wriggled and jiggled and wiggled inside her. Yeah, just swallowed the
Then it
spider
was
to catch the fly. But yeah, we don't want to do that, right? I think that's a nightmare. But yeah, so kudzu is a great example of an invasive exotic species. So these are the movement and establishment of plants, animals, or other organisms outside their native range. And it's typically facilitated by human activity, either intentionally, like kudzu, or accidentally, like the Juro spider. There's another one, right?
I almost swallowed a cockroach.
Ew.
Because I was like asleep and it crawled onto my face and I woke up and it was like almost in my mouth.
It's fun. I swallowed a small fly of some kind at choir rehearsal a couple of months ago. It kept getting, I had my music and it kept coming in front of me. So I swatted and I'd keep singing and I swatted and then I had to breathe because I'm singing and I grabbed my water. A couple of people look up from their music at me like, what's she doing? And then when song was over, I'm like, I'm sorry, I swallowed a fly. I've been in this choir 20 some odd years. That's the first time that happens. Yeah. So we try to conserve our biodiversity, and various measures can be taken to prevent deforestation and extinction of species. We got to watch for poaching. We got to watch efficient use of natural resources, and we got to take care of our ecological hotspots, which are areas with outstanding biodiversity or a high concentration of biological values. And those values can refer to threatened endemic species or unique ecosystems or globally important number of particular species. So like the little mussels in Alabama. That's a great example. We had to sacrifice everything up here for the little mussels in Alabama. So yeah, I mean, you don't want the little mussels to die. At the same time, there were people who'd put in thousands of dollars of landscaping the year before, and they were like, mussels? Like those people were not happy about the mollusks, you know. So an ecological hotspot is more specifically a biodiversity hotspot. It's a region with a high concentration of endemic species, which means they're found nowhere else, and also significantly threatened by habitat loss. Those little mussels were found nowhere else. It wasn't like we could let this population of these mussels die and still find them somewhere else. That's just the only place they lived. So we have to be careful about that. Now we have breeding programs. So breeding programs are carefully planned and managed efforts to breed animals or plants, often over multiple generations, with the goal of influencing or improving specific traits. They can do this in the wild by trying to introduce, kind of force them together, but often this is done in captivity, right? They'll catch an animal or a couple of different members of the same species and try and get them to reproduce and then release the offspring into the wild to try and increase the population. So, and then we have our laws and our treaties and all of these things that support. So the main international instruments include Convention on Biological Diversity, Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, and the Convention on Migratory Species. National laws in the US, we have like the Endangered Species Act, also play roles in trying to keep these little critters safe. Yes.
Why does that wolf have rounded ears?
I have no idea, but it's really pretty.
It's
It's a specific species. Yeah, or it's just a specific species that might have more rounded ears than another. I don't know. Pretty though. So he might. So define biodiversity for me. Okay, I got at least 2 of you that haven't given any answers. Let's see if you can give at least one. If you haven't gotten a coin or called on today, see if you can answer one of these because you probably wrote them down so you don't even have to guess. Anybody want to give me biodiversity? Do I have to call on one of you? Can you manage it, Grace? Or Tyler? Either one of you want to take it? Do you have an answer for that one? We can come back. So biodiversity is the total of all genetically based variation in all organisms in a biosphere. So why is biodiversity one of Earth's greatest natural resources? So Eunice, what you got?
Provides agriculture and contributes to ecosystem services.
Yeah, so species of many kinds provide us with food, industrial products, and medicines. Diverse species play a vital role in the delivery of ecological goods and services. That's one thing we're learning more and more, that we can get certain compounds out of certain plants or whatever that we can use pharmacologically, right? We're finding more and more that that's the case. And so we're able to use those plants, but if we destroy them all before we get to researching them, we'll never know. Maybe there's the cure for Alzheimer's out there in some plant that we have yet to research. We don't know.
That would be wild.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
You said pharmacology.
Pharmacology.
You said pharmacologically.
Maybe I did. Pharmacologically.
Pharmaceutically.
Well, pharmaceutically implies that you're actually employing it, whereas pharmacological would be more of the research end. So ecosystem diversity. All right, Kenna, what you got? Yes, the variety of habitats, communities, and ecological processes in the biosphere is your ecosystem diversity. Your species diversity. Colin.
Species in an area.
There you go. The number of different species in an area or in the biosphere, depending on, this is one of those definitions that depends on the area you're speaking about. Is it the species diversity in my backyard? Is it species diversity in my county, in my state, in my country, in my continent, on the whole planet? And genetic diversity. Claire.
When you have the same species with lots of different genes within that species.
Right. So it's all the genetic information carried in living things. So, and that can be the genetic diversity of multiple species within an area. If you have more genetically diverse species from one another and then multiple species, then you have a lot of genetic diversity within a particular area. So all that's very, very positive. You want that. And you only get the genetic diversity through sexual reproduction. You're not going to get it through organisms that reproduce asexually. They're just not going to give you much diversity. So meeting ecological challenges. The ecological footprint is the impact of human activities measured in terms of the area of biologically productive land and water required to produce the goods consumed and to assimilate the wastes generated. It measures everything that people demand from nature: fruits, vegetables, meat, fish, wood, cotton, and other fibers, as well as the absorption of carbon dioxide from fossil fuel burning and space for buildings and roads. So this mentions waste as being part of it. So I was telling the juniors this earlier. I don't think I told you guys yet. But basically, every resource we use, we're going to then produce waste, right? And some of our waste ends up in the Thames and makes the fish less depressed. Some of our waste is plastic bottles and things of that sort that are rolling around in the water or whatever. So we have landfills where we put our trash, and those have to be very carefully maintained so you don't get runoff going off into places that you don't want. And then you have some trash in some places is incinerated. There's different ways to manage it. And then you have like radioactive waste, and that's totally different. Like they encase that in like concrete. Sometimes they sink it in water. Sometimes they bury it. It's very different. So a lesson learned in waste management is my hometown. So Virginia Beach is at sea level. It's flat as you can get. Flat, flat, flat. And streets flood when it rains. So flat. Yeah. We used to play in the water in the streets, in all the gasoline and grease from cars, because it was the 80s and we didn't care. We were all trying to die every day, I think. You've heard the jokes about why Gen X is still why we are the way we are. Okay, I played in the oil and grease. Yeah. My dad even built me a little wooden boat because the gutters, we had a storm drain. It was in front of our house, so all the water would come to our house. So that it would get, thigh deep as a kid. And I would take the boat out and I play in the street in all the gross water and drive the boat around.
A scene from a certain movie.
Could be. But so anyway, Virginia Beach's initial city dump was very near what became sort of the center of the city. So that was not desirable for obvious reasons. and they had this massive pile of trash that was very big. What is that pile now called?
Trash mountain,
Say it again.
trash mountain.
No, not you. He's actually
Mount Trashmore.
Mount Trashmore. Honest to God, that sounds fake. It's real. So it's not a mountain. It's a hill because it's not big enough to be a mountain. But it is the highest land point in the city of Virginia. It's the highest elevation. You can stand on top of it and see the whole city everywhere you go. It's next to the interstate. So as you're driving to the oceanfront, coming for your vacation in the resort city, you have a giant green mountain with a big city seal with the Cape Henry Lighthouse on it. And it says Virginia Beach, and it was a trash pile. Now, the problem was, this was a great idea. We have a trash pile. We have to do something. Let's make a park. So we made a park. But they failed to consider the fact that all of the decomposing trash was going to produce gas. So when I was in about 5th or 6th grade, there became a real concern that the mountain was going to explode. It was filling up with gas, and flammable gas, nonetheless, like methane and whatever was coming up out of the ground. So for several months, they had to close down the whole Mount Trashmore Park and drive these giant pipes down into the mountain to let the gas out so that the mountain did not explode. It is pretty much the only place to go sledding in the whole city because it's all real level. Like, so people roll down the trash mountain towards the interstate. It's fun, but cars are whizzing by and you're rolling down. Yeah.
It's fun to see it
But
explode.
there's a lake, small lake, large pond beside it that resulted from them digging up all of the dirt to put on top of the trash to plant the grass. But if you want to see something weird, you can look up Mount Trashmore and you'll see it, and it was a dump. So that's one way we manage waste. So ecological footprints. So for example, the average American footprint. So this here talks about, like, for example, we throw away 43,371 cans during our lifetime. We go through enough oil to fill 3 large tankers. This is every person. We live in 10 homes, which equals more than 64 trees used for lumber. So this is just an average American, the average. When you consider stuff like apartments, dormitories, yeah, probably that's about right. And the biggest ecology, here we are, look at us. Okay, so our little rating here is going to be, so this is by people, all right, whereas this is overall. Here we are at 2.7, 0.8, China. There it is again, 5. And if you look at it as a per person thing, like this takes into effect population. So in our case, per person, we're putting out a little more than China, but overall, China as a country is putting out more than us as far as waste and having an ecological footprint. So fisheries, we have to manage fisheries for sustainable yield, including strategies such as fishing limits, changing fishing methods, developing aquaculture techniques, and finding new resources. Limits on number and size of catch can prevent overfishing to ensure young fish survive and reproduce. Where is your nearest fishery hatchery? Anybody know where it is? You know? Yeah, it's right up the river. If you go right up the river, best way to get there from here is to go out to Highway 20, go into Chattahoochee River Club neighborhood, which is the opposite side of Windermere. Go in there, wind through, you'll see little signs. Up against the river is a hatchery and fishery, where basically they breed rainbow trout to stock the river for fishermen. So if you like fishing for trout, this is a great place. But I've told many people before, anybody's welcome to fish in my river. Just tell me you're coming, but you have to have waiters. You can't, like, Claire's grandfather and I have talked about this like 4 times. I'm like, you need to come, but you can't stand on the shore. I tried, because you cast and you reel and your line's just going with the river. It moves too fast. But if you had waiters and you could stand and cast downstream, you'd do quite well. And people fish all the time in that river. It is stocked. So fishing limits. This is when they say anything from you can only fish this time of year to you can only catch but so many to you can only take home fish that are so big. Typically, they're going to limit your smaller fish. Why?
Because they're most likely babies in here.
Yeah, they haven't reproduced yet. So the bigger fish have probably reproduced a couple times. They're good. Take that one home, be happy with it. Throw the little ones back. Give them a turn to reproduce and get their genes back into the gene pool. Now, fishing methods, those are called what? None of the juniors knew. Lures, right? So those are lures. And sometimes you use lures, sometimes you use live bait. There are limits on methods. Anything from you may fish with lures here to you may fish with live bait. You may not do one or the other. And yeah, anything from that to the type of pole you use, the type of line you use, whether you're using a net or not. If you put a net across the river, you're going to catch all the trout, but you're also going to get bycatch, which means anything that's not trout, you're catching that too, right? So there are lots of ways to limit how people fish instead of just what they're pulling out of the water. And then lastly, we have aquaculture, which is like agriculture, but instead it's for aquatic plants and fish and animals. So plants too, we do aquaculture. Yeah, Claire.
What species is that?
I'm not even sure, but he's so cute. It's a baby something. So I don't know, but it's a baby something. It's a very cute little baby guy. Look at this one. This one's like, take that picture. He's like smirking at me. But anyway. Maybe, yeah, the fuzzy wiggies or whatever. Yeah. So meeting ecological challenges. So we have atmospheric ozone. Ozone is O3, not O2. Oxygen typically hangs out with one other oxygen. Sometimes he hangs out with two other oxygens. That's O3. And it's normal in the atmosphere. It exists in two main regions of the Earth's atmosphere, in the stratosphere and the troposphere. It's a natural component, but it can be beneficial and harmful kind of depending upon where it's located. Then we also have the whole global warming climate change argument, which is our big discussion that we have in earth science. So global warming refers to the increase in the planet's overall temperature in recent decades. Natural processes have always affected Earth's temperature and climate. But more recently, the planet's temperature and climate have changed at a higher pace than some people are going to say nature alone can explain. Some people will argue that. And when we do our unit on this in earth science, we watch, who here has done earth science? You. Yeah. You weren't. Did you agree? No, you came in at physical. So earth science is next year. We watch a series of documentaries. We watch the Al Gore, yeah, An Inconvenient Truth, where he strongly suggests that the global warming we're seeing, climate change we're seeing, is driven by man. We immediately follow that with the Great Global Warming Swindle, which they take all the same data that Al Gore just used and say, and here's why that's not right, using the same data. And then we watch the sequel to An Inconvenient Truth, and then we watch like basically the sequel to the Great Global Warming Swindle. So basically we watch 4 documentaries and we think critically about them because they're using the same data and coming to completely different conclusions. So it's a way to really be sure you're thinking critically and not taking everything at face value. All right, so this was your homework assignment and it was about wolves, right? So it says, why shouldn't we allow, this is a newspaper article, right? Newspapers, magazines, and media broadcasts contain editorials that argued either for or against reintroduction of wolves to Yellowstone. Who were both against reintroduction might have made arguments such as those in the paragraphs below. So the argument is, an opinion from a concerned rancher. Crazy P Ranch has been in my, I love it, has been in my family for 3 generations. I have worked alongside my parents and grandparents and heard many stories about my great-grandparents raising cattle here. Ranching is not an easy life. In fact, it's really hard. However, it is our livelihood. Our Wyoming ranch overlooks the Absaroka, I don't know how to say that one, mountain range, a place abundant with elk and other game that our family has hunted for years. Now we feel that our very livelihood will be endangered by the reintroduction of wolves. Gray wolves are predators with incredible hunting skills. They hunt in packs and take down the weakest prey animals. How can my 500 herd of cattle survive attacks by these predators? The sick and young cattle are at their mercy, especially after a long winter. Not only are my cattle in danger, but so are the elk that my father, son, and I hunt each fall. We rely on the meat of the elk for food throughout the winter. We face an economic loss if our cattle herd is decimated. This rancher says no to wolves. Okay, so you'll see these kinds of things all the time when people were actually reading real newspapers, editorials. People wrote in comments all the time. So, by the way, does anybody watch Yellowstone, the show? So, if you've watched the show, you've seen that they actually have the ranch there. They're wolves. They are a problem. And yeah. So, how might wolf reintroduction affect the rancher's business? What did some of you have to say? Okay, Yusuf, you tell me.
Might eat the cattle.
Yep, the cattle. Yeah.
Dairy product.
Dairy products, if they're dairy cattle, these could be beef cattle too. Uh-huh.
Yeah, just killing off livestock in general.
Yeah.
because, after the winter, but I also put in there that they could get like a cattle dog.
Yeah, they could get a cattle dog. So the cattle dogs are mainly like for herding the cattle. They can be for chasing off wolves, but the dog's not going to be much. It might deter a wolf, but if it decides to get in a fight with it, it's not going to win. Nah. Most of the time, it's not going to win. So it could kill off his cattle, which is going to then impact his income and his ability to run his business and to feed his family. So during what time of year do you think the ranchers are most concerned about their cattle, and why, Jordan?
Winter, because winter can be hard for the cattle to go through, so they're going to be very more vulnerable.
Right, they're more vulnerable in the winter. And what else?
Winter or early spring,
Mm-hmm.
because the wolves are hungry after a long winter and calves are being born.
Yes, calving season is early spring. So the wolves are going to be hungry after a long winter, and they're going to have the deer. The cattle are vulnerable in the winter, and then the wolves are getting hungry in the winter, and then in the spring they've got babies that they can just pluck off. Right, that's when calving season is in your early spring. So in his argument, the rancher focuses on the consequences of wolf reintroduction on his family. Why do you suppose he chose this angle? And what else could he have talked about to strengthen? He made this personal. So why do you think he made it personal? Claire.
To give it more weight behind his words.
Okay, give it some weight. Uh-huh. Caitlin.
He could strengthen his argument by giving like numbers and data behind.
Statistics and facts. Yeah. Eunice.
To give an emotional, like a little emotional story, so
Mhm.
they might like support this.
Yeah, playing to the emotions of the people who are reading. Kenna.
It's obviously good that
Other ranchers are going to relate to that emotional stuff. And Asher.
It was the only one that was relevant to him.
Was what was relevant to him. Yeah. So he could have done facts and he could have done statistics and things of that sort. That might have strengthened his argument, but he was taking a less logical approach, and he was going for the let me tug on your heartstrings and tell you how this is going to affect me approach. Sometimes that's the better argument. It depends on who you're arguing to. I want you to give me the facts and stuff. And maybe that's because I'm a sciencey person, but I want your stats, your numbers, your facts. I'm not going to, I'm kind of like those facts don't care about feelings. Like, give me the facts. I need the facts. Sorry about your feelings, but give me the facts. That kind of a thing. Feelings help though. Humans are humans, and people know that. People know that you can approach humans from an emotional standpoint, and sometimes get them to turn. Because we talked before, people are logical. And for most people, you can speak logic to them all day and it will not change their opinion until something hits their heart differently, right? That's just the way humans are. Okay, what did you learn in your textbook that would support the opinion that reintroduction of wolves in 1995 was a good idea? Barrett?
Overpopulation of cattle.
Overpopulation of cattle. Okay, Eunice?
I think it's because the wolf's population was less, so they want to increase it.
Okay, yeah. Asher?
Exponential growth of things like deer and
Okay. So yeah, we've lost our predators. So now we have more of our herd prey animals that are growing exponentially. So yeah, they're part of the ecosystem, and the biologists were trying to restore it to its previous state. All right. Unit 2 test study topics. Where do you find these? Dropbox resources folder. This is what will be covered on your Unit 2. Whoop. Oops. Sorry. Oh, did I bring it back? I know some of you like to take a picture. I just tapped it one too many times. There you go. Oh, shoot. I did it again. Come on. There. All right, there you go. I will see everybody next week. Try not to shake the candy machine. Just take what you get. Don't brutalize it, please. It's very old. Some of you are like, shake it.
think the antidepressant, but why do I think depressant? You think the antidepressants would actually help the fish in some way?
Depressed. They don't deal with the stuff we deal with,
So
but they're very happy now. Yeah.
this week I won't be here.
Okay. Next week? Okay, yeah, that's
I
fine.
will be here because my mom and I are going to check out. I'll still be here.
Excellent.
But it's besides comment on the video.
No, that should be it. Comment on the video and then whatever it says to do for lab, it'll be in the weekly email. It'll say what you need to do. Like it'll either say it's either excused or it'll say get your information from your teammates or whatever.
Thanks.
Yeah, have fun. What's your name?
This is.
Yeah, oh, you're crocheting. Okay.
Okay.
Because I decided to torch myself with the smallest jar and make it back. This is a 2 millimeter.
Say that's very small yard. That's what Jason said. I had everything spread out on the table because I was. It's
I know.
like you're having fun. I absolutely am. Like it's fun to do.
But you don't multiply.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun
See a video of a fish elevator.
Oh yeah, look them up.
I wanna see
They're
if
really
it's
cool.
later.
Fish elevator.
No, I have one from the actual place I went to.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
This is so neat. I'm super
Okay.
impressed with fish
There we go.
elevators.
Okay, I do.
Going for a ride.
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
There you go. There you go.
0.25.
They jump really high.
Okay. That's
Are they salmon?
The number that wasn't divisible by
Oh yeah.
Elevator.
5.
They jump.
Fish elevator.
Elevators.
Well, look at that.
That's so cool.
Yep, that is
They jump like 3 feet in there.
fairly.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
There's like hundreds of them too.
Oh,
I
you sent me.
a video.
I just saw my phone popped up. Cool. I'll have to watch that. Very cool. Very, very cool. I love it.
I have things to show you.
Oh, you do? I'm excited for this.
I love all of her like true crime videos.
Okay.
She posts them. Did you see this one about the two brothers?
It happened on-
Brothers.
That's my last second. Call me Chris.
Oh,
He's my Canada.
Yeah,
He does like, have you ever seen those like?
You wrote the text.
Oh, seriously?
Go back to the dog.
Yes, she's getting married.
That's so.
It's like the 2 weeks.
It's your extra right here.
And then after that,
That.
Interesting.
I mean, I guess I could if I needed to.
How they take it out.
Maybe to get away, maybe, but
Interesting.
probably not.
That is so super cool. He has extra bone. Did you see him? Extra bones.
If you've ever seen like the girl and she has that's she has like a journal.
Very cool. I love it.
So yeah. The most.
So when are they taking it out? Is it a date yet? Yeah.
So then I have to deal with this.
Yeah.
Because I can't. I think I found for 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's fun.
No,
Crutches hurt.
It's like a really long.
Crutches really hurt.
It would hurt.
They have stuff for your arms. They hurt.
I said,
Crutches.
Under your arm.
Oh, they did.
They're not set right.
Yeah, no, I know. The only time I had them for an extended period of time, I could never get them to make my hands stop hurting. So then I would take the weight off my hands and put it under my arms. Then my arms would hurt, and I was just like, I can't.
Actually, I like the pressure better than the, I can move way faster.
Yeah. Well, faster for sure.
Do fast and both.
All right.
Because I've been in the boot, so.
I've always been impressed with people who can use one crutch and do it fast. That's well, Ellie's arm was the worst arm break I've seen. Like that X-ray was insane. Like snapped it, and I was like, "Whoa, girl!" It was so good. She got a good.
About Rodney Alcala,
Another name. I keep myself.
the dating show.
Yes. Did you watch the movie? with
I
Anna
haven't
Kendrick.
yet.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Anna Kendrick
called?
did it. It was called Woman of the Hour.
When we did the.
I think, but that's what it was about. Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
it was
I
good.
hope we
It
feel
was
like
very
you
well.
know, like
done. He
choose your
did
lap
the
team.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Daisy Show or whatever.
There
it is.
Monkey guy.
Right? Extinct.
Yeah, Tasmanian tiger.
Tasmanian tiger.
It's
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
crazy.
He was creepy. He was creepy.
Do you know about the shooter at the Minneapolis shooting last week?
Yeah.
I looked it up and that's crazy. I was like, holy.
I watched the video he made where he was like 10 minutes of wandering around his bedroom, and I was like, he's just not right.
Did they take that down?
Maybe, but I don't know.
That was crazy.
Somebody sent it to me the very first day, and I was just like you could tell he was just not.
Oh, there were lots of
Yeah, very many things were going on.
My friend, she loves researching school shooting.
Well, but they call it
And so she went to
the
her.
omni cause. They call it the omni cause, meaning like he was mad at everything.
Oh, yeah.
The omni cause, like nothing. There was nothing that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the omni cause. Yeah, I never heard that.
There were a bunch of unidentified people for the pictures that he took of people. And so like, the person that I watched the pictures of, it's identified and yeah.
Do you ever see that there's a picture of this girl with a massive banana and they writing about her? It was Casey came from it. It circulated widely because people thought might have been one particular person who closed her. But no, I do think we're gonna see a resolution to John Graham in the next 2 years. I think they're gonna do forensic investigative genetic genealogy. I don't think that when they The most recent documentary where they interviewed her father, because he just passed away. The most recent documentary where they interviewed him was probably the best one I've ever seen. He like, he got blamed, his wife got blamed, or oh, they did it. But the biggest suspect was yeah, and he did not have his DNA, something didn't think where they found it, he didn't touch DNA. And he found it right here on the
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty good. So that's too. So it's like, come on, quit blaming her 12-year-old brother. That's just what it says. But yeah, that's what I was really saying.
It's like they did like an analysis of the vehicle. It would take like 30 or 45 minutes to write out
Yeah,
on paper that my mom had.
yeah. They were in the house for a long time.
That's so creepy.
Yeah, he was in that house a long time, a very long time.
When we stress the family.
They were at a party. They were at a Christmas party, and then they came back to bed. No, we all came back to bed. So the question was that person in the house while they were at the party, or were they just in the house? When did they come in? You don't need insurance. I mean, it is. No, it's talking about virtual case.
And you know, like there was a case of
No.
Oh, yeah.
8-year-old serial killer.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, that's.
How there's at least 2 podcast episodes where
Oh, yeah.
one of them, he was like 7 or 10, but she had, both her parents were, both their brothers were, she was, one of the younger ones, but she had all of her younger siblings, like one was a baby, and she poisoned them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, females really also, they're almost all.
He poisoned them, yeah, like, when he was taken out of like the home, and all, where she didn't have to hear him. Normal kid, but like, they're like, she put, I don't remember what it was, but it's like, her brother's watching like a shop or something.
Yeah.
And bought stuff for her to help them, so that she would have raised
That's
it
It's probably vital.
But they were like, she took like little pieces and like turned it into something else.
Yeah.
And then put it in like the food, and then they got it in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, have you heard the most recent stuff? It's the Australian the mushroom lady. That is crazy. Erin, I forget her last name. But basically, she was told all of these stories about, she invited her whole family over because she wanted to tell them about something important. And they all thought that she's having health problems. She indicated to the fact that she pulled something and she had cancer. But in that minute, her ex-husband decided to stop it. So it was her former in-laws and then like her husband's cousin and his wife. And she fed them all individual pea elephants. And some of them contained toxic mushrooms that she knew were in there. And she killed like 3 people and that 4th person was nearly died. All of them intentionally eating a death pattern. So she had gone and foraged. She foraged for them. And then she put them in her dehydrator and like the whole thing. And this was so planned because they laughed. And then she tried to be like, well, welcome to the Chinese market. No, you did not. Your cell phone data showed you in the forest. First off, her computer showed she was in a group where people were like the origin group. And they will say where they find neat things and where they find dangerous things. Beware, there are death patterns here. And then she read that. They guess she read it, and then guess where her cell phone went? To the forest to get it. Oh, for real.
Whenever I
We are at
she could have done it with like mushrooms that look like alpha mushrooms, but are so important. Because they look super similar.
Yeah, that's it.
I think that's their texture was really different. You could use those.
That was a big.
So that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, they were alpha mushroom.
I'm still the one that I'm obsessed with. Cause I want to see where it ends up, so, list stuff along my own, yeah. They have him down solidly, he's dead to rights, I don't care what bit of defense he puts up. I don't see how they're gonna get around. doing that.
I'm trying to pick the person who does the podcast too, so that's. Yes, because I was wishing it's all for.
There's a whole list of.
No, you don't.
You know, not with the practice, love you. We'll work hard.
See you guys.
When I tell pocket stuff, that's like. They stop them blank count of times, I just think how many times that is.
And this is what's like, man, you know what's crazy is his wife. Split on him. For the first, maybe, I don't wanna say 2 or 3 weeks, is when they arrested him, usually. And his wife stood by, and then they sat her down, I think what they told her based on the information that they published is, ma'am, your hair was found in the duct tape on his victim. How did your hair get there? She did. Every single one of those women he murdered was around his wife and his daughter. He brought out his wife and his daughter's hair, but I'm sorry. I'm gonna defend my husband to the end of time, if my hair ends up on murder victim, he's all. And she was up, like that's what it, that is, she was like, I'm gonna like sneak out the back door, it's like, don't mind me, I'm not. That's what Marty knew at a crime scene. Now, you had nothing to do with it. It is wild. He's still going. Yeah, I know. That is very wild. Like beyond wild. Oh yeah, somebody left their pennies. There's always somebody leaving their pennies. There's always somebody who's like, I don't want my pennies. Oh, thank you. You're just bringing me all my packages today, aren't you? Oh,